US is coming up. US is coming. Watch the US. Even to bring the World Cup next year, the FIFA World Cup in 26 here in the United States, together with Mexico and Canada. It is important that everyone that comes to America feels safe, feels welcome, and that's why it's important that the government puts together this White House task force.
It was so sad because I said, can you imagine, I'm not going to be president, and that's too bad. And then what happened is they rigged the election and I became president, so that was a good thing. That was a good thing. That was quite an achievement for both of us. So I'll be president during the World Cup and during the Olympics, which we were very instrumental in getting.
Well, we are now 1 year out to the World Cup. And you know what? There are questions about the impact President Trump's travel ban could have on athletes and fans trying to get into this country.
Could be an issue for the fans. Good morning to you, Marcus and Chris. If you're not aware, the Trump administration has banned citizens from 12 countries from traveling and entering into the United States.
Called the visa integrity fee, and it is really set to add more costs on for some travelers. Now, here's what we know. We know the fee right now is around $250. Oh, it's going to be at least $250. It could go higher.
Our figures are record breaking, and we have seen how America has embraced all different communities from the entire world.
Harder to gauge the impact of U.S. immigration policies, including new international travel restrictions and an ongoing crackdown on illegal immigration that has impacted even some non-citizens in the country legally.
State Department is proposing new changes to visa applications. The program could require some foreign visitors to pay bonds of up to $15,000 to enter the U.S.
To come, we want them to celebrate, we want them to watch the game, but when the time is up, they'll have to go home. Otherwise, they'll have to talk to Secretary No.
Talking about the Homeland Security Secretary. FIFA also hedging.
The world is welcome in America. Those who want to come to create trouble, like in every country in the world, well, they are not welcome. And when you want to kick out someone, like this. That's true, right?
Does this feel like a ban? Maybe not officially, but new U.S. rules, from $250 entry fees to $15,000 bonds, visa delays stretching past 300 days, and reports of increased ICE presence at certain soccer events, are making the 2026 World Cup feel distant for international fans. What was billed as the most accessible tournament in history now looks increasingly restricted. What makes this matter even more is FIFA's own requirement: host nations must guarantee access for ticket holders. Without that, the event risks not only credibility but also billions in lost revenue. Meanwhile, Canada and Mexico stand ready with open stadiums and less red tape. So the question for Canadians is this: if the U.S. is busy putting up barriers, does that hand the real advantage to us in Mexico? And if the price of entry keeps climbing, what good are America's massive stadiums sitting half empty? Trump's travel policies are creating what some analysts are already calling a billion-dollar barrier. New costs and conditions that change how the world approaches the U.S. as a World Cup host. The centerpiece is the $250 visa integrity fee enacted in 2025. It applies to most non-immigrant visa applicants and is framed by officials as a way to fund processing and deter abuse. On paper, it is technically refundable under certain conditions. In practice, it is an additional mandatory charge on top of the usual $185 application fee. For fans arriving from countries with weaker currencies, this isn't just an extra line item, it's an early signal of exclusion. Alongside the integrity fee is a State Department bond pilot. This program allows consular officers to require certain applicants to post a refundable bond of $5,000, $10,000, or up to $15,000. It is discretionary, not universal, and applies primarily to B1 and B2 visitors from specific countries. It was launched as a 12-month pilot and is technically temporary, but for anyone affected, the cost spike is significant. Having to post thousands of dollars up front, in addition to airfare, tickets, hotels, and the new visa fee, shifts the World Cup from a dream to a financial impossibility. Officials describe these measures as fair and necessary. They argue the integrity fee covers the true costs of screening and fraud prevention. To them, the bond is only a safeguard for high-risk cases. Yet the impact is measured in who feels locked out. Consider a supporter from Nigeria paying the standard visa fee of $185, plus the $250 integrity fee before even stepping onto a plane. That's $435 before flights, lodging, or match tickets. Add a possible bond in the thousands, and many fans and families conclude the trip is off the table. The rules may be billed as temporary or targeted, but they build an invisible wall around the tournament. This isn't just a story of individuals priced out. FIFA has spent decades trying to present the World Cup as a global event with every nation represented in the stands. Flags waving, chants echoing, cultures mixing in the same space. That inclusivity is part of its identity. The moment those supporters can't afford to attend, that image shatters. When Colombian or Ghanaian supporter groups scale back plans, or drop the US games entirely, the atmosphere changes. The spectacle feels incomplete, the host's promise unfulfilled. The business implications follow quickly. Sponsors spend billions to tie their brands to overflowing stadiums, showcasing the diversity of world football. They want panoramic shots of stands filled with fans from every continent. If ticket sales lag or if the balance of fans is skewed toward locals only, sponsors face weaker returns on their massive investments. Tourism revenue is also on the line. Airlines, hotels, and restaurants all scale up in expectation of visiting fans. But if those fans turn toward Canada or Mexico instead, the local U.S. economic boost will shrink. Canada is already projected to generate about $3.8 billion Canadian dollars in economic output from its share of the matches. That figure highlights the stakes. The same event, the same global audience, but with one host maximizing its gains while another erodes them. Symbolically, it creates contradictions that organizers cannot ignore. A tournament meant to embody access and unity now pairs one of its central hosts with policies that imply prove your worth first. The irony cuts both ways. By fortifying access, the United States undercuts the very openness the World Cup promotes. Fans and analysts alike are left questioning whether these measures are short-term fixes or a sign of deeper hostility toward international participation. And this is only one layer of the challenge. Because beyond the fees and bonds, another obstacle is already reshaping the journey for would-be visitors: the wait to even secure a visa interview. That delay is proving as punishing as the price.
You need to be applying now for that visa.
Indian citizen and soccer fanatic Shivanshu Vyas says at first the earliest time he could get a visa appointment was for next May.
I thought, well, hey, if my appointment is in May, I'll get my application approved when the World Cup would have already started.
Luckily, he managed to snag another appointment, still 8 months out from now. But the State Department website reports some consulates have average wait times as long as 16 months.
What happens when the calendar works against you before the first whistle is even blown? That's the reality emerging with U.S. visa delays. For an event with fixed dates, the timelines now look almost impossible. Certain consulates are reporting waits in the 300-day range, while isolated posts have documented waits over 700 days. To make it more complicated, wait times vary widely across locations. For some applicants, the window to even secure an interview could stretch well beyond the start of the World Cup itself. The picture is already familiar to supporters: appointment slots vanishing in minutes, portals constantly refreshed, and interviews postponed without warning. For fans in Latin America, Africa, and Asia, this creates a stark choice. Either commit money to flights and tickets without knowing if a visa will ever be approved, or abandon U.S. matches entirely. One Colombian fan who applied early in 2023 has already seen his interview pushed back multiple times, with no guarantee he'll clear the system in time. Multiply that situation across thousands of applicants, and you see the strain isn't just about individual frustration. It's systemic failure. Analysts stress that this is no short-term hiccup. Visa backlogs began growing years ago, and demand has consistently outpaced processing capacity. Layer on the new visa integrity fee, and the possibility of bond requirements, and the barriers stack higher. Even supporters who prepare diligently and set aside funds cannot plan with certainty. Instead of filling stadiums, they end up caught in administrative queues. The data points are clear. Wait times have escalated steadily, with no sign of stabilizing before 2026. Meanwhile, rival hosts show what open access looks like. Canada and Mexico manage visa processing in days or weeks, and in many cases, fans from key football nations don't need visas at all. That gives travelers confidence to book full packages, flights, hotels, and tickets, well in advance. The ripple starts immediately. Airlines add more routes, hotels raise rates, the anticipation builds in visible ways. Contrasting that with the US, where fans remain frozen in uncertainty, the differences become impossible for FIFA to ignore. There's also proof this isn't just a theoretical risk. Some national federations are openly raising grievances. Reports surfaced of federations from countries like Nigeria and Iran warning FIFA that their supporters face unrealistic odds of obtaining visas. Organized fan groups in other regions have started canceling plans for US matches while redirecting energy toward Canada and Mexico. The effect reaches the teams themselves. If federations know their most passionate backers will be locked out, they encourage support to shift to venues where entry is guaranteed. That alters both atmosphere and economics, creating quieter stands in the United States and more vibrant ones north and south of its borders. The broader question is whether this backlog can be cleared in time. Officials talk about adding staff, funding, or temporary measures to accelerate processing. But the signs so far suggest the delays are baked into the system itself, not just a momentary surge. That means America's role as a co-host looks increasingly hollow. Building luxury stadiums only matters if supporters from across the globe sit inside them. If not, the images beamed worldwide will be of empty seats and missing voices, a visual contradiction to FIFA's promise of universal inclusion. And visuals matter. The way the world perceives a host nation depends not only on logistics and access, but also on how those choices play out in front of audiences. A country that welcomes fans looks united with the game. A country that excludes them risks sending the opposite message. This tension is already showing signs not only in bureaucratic wait times, but in moments on the global stage where politics and football collide. Those moments, and how they're received, are becoming just as crucial to the success of the tournament.
Post-match scenes got ugly, a scuffle broke out, and then US President Donald Trump was booed during the game. Chelsea's celebration was overshadowed by Trump himself, and FIFA, being FIFA, tried sweeping all of that under the rug, yet again proving how chaotic and tone-deaf this entire event has been.
Chelsea was phenomenal. They win 3-0. There you see they like to jump in at the end, and then you see the FIFA president go and grab the president and go, yeah, we should probably let the team jump on their own.
Yeah.
What happened on the pitch at the 2025 Club World Cup final said more about America's hosting image than any official press release. The appearance of the U.S. president, meant to project confidence before the World Cup, instead highlighted an unexpected backlash. Reports show his entrance was met with loud boos that quickly overshadowed the initial cheers. Media and fans also noted confusion during the trophy ceremony, including the presentation of a replica rather than the real trophy on stage, creating a widely circulated awkward moment. For a host nation leader, that is not just embarrassment. It's a warning sign that the global audience is watching closely. From the field of play, the scene felt disjointed. Players stood by uncertain, waiting for medals, while officials scrambled to keep the ceremony intact. To home viewers, it may have looked like a minor production error, but international broadcasts replayed the images with sharp commentary. What should have been a unifying highlight was reframed as a symbol of disconnect. A host country president introduced as a celebratory figure, then audibly rejected by significant sections of the crowd. FIFA prides itself on avoiding situations where politics upstage the spectacle, but here the politics became the moment. The circulation was immediate. Within hours, clips of the ceremony were trending on Twitter, TikTok, and Reddit. Memes multiplied. Some users compared the scene to incidents abroad where political leaders routinely enter stadiums to boos, arguing that football culture serves as an unfiltered referendum on credibility. For fans, that reaction wasn't confined to one match or one official. It became shorthand for how the host country might be received globally in 2026. Sponsors and FIFA executives took note for a very different reason. They're not just investing in games and television rights, they are paying for an apolitical product, one that symbolizes unity and cultural exchange. Viral incidents that reinforce division or draw attention away from football undermine that investment. For broadcasters and advertisers, the risk isn't only empty seats. It's paying billions to be associated with negative global headlines. A final filled with boos instead of cheers raises the possibility that sponsors will shift resources toward matches they know will look celebratory, safe, and inclusive on screen. The contrast was glaring in the same stadium that night. On one side, you had flags from dozens of nations, chants in different languages, and fans celebrating the joy of the sport. On the stage, a political figure who looked disconnected from that atmosphere. The optics undercut the very message FIFA works to cultivate, that the World Cup transcends national politics. When the two collided, it reminded viewers around the world how fragile that balance is. Inside FIFA, officials have acknowledged in private conversations that moments like this carry real weight. They calculate success not just by logistics or safety, but by images that project stability. Those images drive confidence among broadcasters, federations, and corporate partners. A hostile reception for the host president on live television painted the opposite picture. For FIFA, it was not simply noise in a stadium. It was a signal that trust could erode in front of a global audience. The episode, therefore, did more than bruise egos. It pushed FIFA into evaluating whether America's political stagecraft might overshadow football itself. If perception tilts too far toward controversy, the tournament risks being remembered as a political flashpoint instead of a unifying festival. And with billions of dollars already committed, the last outcome FIFA or its partners want is a continuation of those optics at the main event in 2026. This leaves an obvious question. If the credibility of one host shows cracks under pressure, where can FIFA and its sponsors turn for reliability? The answer may lie just across America's borders, waiting with stadiums, smoother logistics, and a different kind of spotlight.
This is un regalo.
Oh.
This is a gift for you.
This is wonderful, and this is an area where Mexico, Canada, and our third co-host,
yes, right.
the other president, we are totally aligned in our excitement, enthusiasm for the beautiful game, right. And co-hosting in a sign of friendship. So thank you very much. This is wonderful.
Who is waiting in the wings to take center stage if America falters? Look north and south. Canada has been working quietly, but the upgrades are concrete. BMO Field in Toronto is under construction, adding thousands of new seats to make sure it can handle World Cup crowds. Vancouver's BC Place is already one of the largest stadiums in the country, and it has hosted international tournaments before without major incidents. Both cities have the infrastructure people care about: public transit that links arenas to airports and downtown hotels, and visa rules that move much faster than the mess in the US. The point is simple: Canada is ready. Not on paper, not in theory, but in practice. Mexico is in a similar position. The legendary Estadio Azteca, a stadium that has already hosted multiple World Cup finals, is being renewed again. It remains one of the most iconic football venues in the world. Add Monterrey's Estadio BBVA and Guadalajara's Akron Stadium, and you see how Mexico brings not only capacity but also heritage. The passion in Mexican stadiums is trusted. Fans know the atmosphere will be electric. Renovations are already in place, not delayed by political standoffs about budgets or policies. That matters for FIFA. Reliability plus history is a strong combination. The shift is also about perception. Fans are already saying online that they'd rather go to Canadian or Mexican matches than risk the headache of American entry rules. It isn't because the US stadiums themselves look bad. It's because travel feels uncertain. People don't want to spend thousands only to be stopped at the border or trapped in endless paperwork. In Canada or Mexico, that anxiety doesn't exist in the same way. One trip is full of unknowns. The other gives reassurance. That difference shapes behavior. Canada's advantage is clear in this area. Visa processing is measured in weeks at most. Many visitors don't even need visas depending on their home country. That simplicity makes trip planning safe. Airlines are latching onto that clarity, adding routes into Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. When people can confirm travel early, they also book hotel packages early. The economic ripples are already visible. Tourism dollars are being locked in for Canadian cities instead of hanging in limbo in the US. Sponsors are following the same logic. Global brands don't gamble on uncertainty when billions are at stake. If supporters may not even enter the US in time, campaigns built around those matches risk going to waste. Why risk empty American stadium content if you can guarantee a packed scene in Mexico City or Toronto? Activation budgets are shifting quietly. Airlines, beverage companies, and tech sponsors are putting more marketing resources into Canadian and Mexican fixtures where the crowd is guaranteed to show. These decisions might not make headlines yet, but inside FIFA circles, they are noticed. Mexico's pull also cannot be ignored. The culture around football there is not manufactured. It is long-standing, visible in every corner of the sport. From street-level fan culture to club-level loyalty, the energy is unquestioned. For sponsors, that authenticity guarantees television shots of massive crowds and roaring atmospheres. Stadium upgrades only amplify what was already there. It gives security to FIFA, knowing that the other two hosts can produce the spectacle reliably, even if America runs into travel or optics problems. Think about the stakes. If matches are quietly shifted away from the US, Canada and Mexico will not just absorb the atmosphere. They will absorb the money too. Billions could move north and south, redirected through accommodation, flights, sponsorships, and broadcast revenue. U.S. cities that lined up to host will see those funds evaporate. The irony is sharp. The countries that were framed as junior partners in the United 2026 Inches bid are now positioned as potential leads. They stand to look like the real stars if the migration of fans and sponsors grows. So the question hangs. What happens if FIFA formalizes this shift and redefines the balance of power in North America's hosting picture? When global sports collide with national policy, FIFA is forced into a decision it would rather avoid. The World Cup is meant to guarantee access, yet U.S. visa backlogs and new restrictions have left FIFA facing what looks like a breach of its core promise. This is not an administrative nuisance. Empty seats undermine billions in sponsorships, ticket sales, and tourism revenue, and they signal to FIFA's partners that one of its hosts may not deliver on its obligations. The mechanism for dealing with this already exists. FIFA's host agreement contains a clause enabling reassignment of matches with roughly 90 days' notice if security or access requirements are not met. That means games can legally be moved north or south with only 3 months' warning. In a tournament with 48 teams and more than 100 fixtures, that flexibility is a safeguard. For U.S. organizers, it is also a looming threat. Unless access concerns are fixed, FIFA has the contractual right to shift matches quickly. Sponsors are treating that possibility seriously. Emirates Airlines has contingency plans prepared to move hospitality operations into Canadian venues. Visa has adjusted budgets to focus promotional spending in Toronto, where attendance looks more certain. Reports also point to brands considering Mexican matches for fan engagement zones, where stadium turnout is more dependable. These are not wholesale exits from U.S. partnerships, but they are signals of caution. Companies that spend billions on global advertising do not take chances on markets that now look unstable. The economics of even a partial shift are striking. Analysts estimate that moving just 10 additional matches into Canada could generate around $1.2 billion in new economic activity through airline bookings, hotels, restaurants, and tourism jobs. The flip side is losses for American host cities such as Dallas or Miami, which have already invested heavily in stadiums and renovations. The venues are built, the seats are ready, but restrictive policies risk leaving them unused. International concern isn't limited to sponsors. The International Olympic Committee is watching closely with the 2028 Los Angeles Games on the horizon. Similar visa backlogs or entry restrictions during the Olympics would become a global embarrassment on an even larger stage. Preliminary discussions have even floated the idea of creating special Olympic visa lanes as a workaround. But without Homeland Security commitment, those proposals remain theoretical. Both FIFA and the IOC are now confronting the possibility that U.S. entry rules, not stadiums, could jeopardize the success of their events. National football federations are also applying pressure. Federations from Iran, Algeria, and Venezuela have already filed formal requests to have their World Cup fixtures played in Canada or Mexico. Their argument: if fans cannot enter the U.S., their teams will compete without essential support, turning the competition into an uneven playing field. FIFA's own human rights policy requires that ticket holders be able to access matches. If the U.S. cannot meet that minimum standard, shifting fixtures isn't just a protective option. It becomes an enforcement of FIFA's own rules. All of this explains why Canada and Mexico are starting to look less like secondary hosts. The reliable venues, more open travel systems, and stronger fan access records give them credibility that U.S. organizers are struggling to maintain. Reallocating matches would not have been part of the original vision, but FIFA now faces requests, sponsor concerns, and contractual freedoms that make it the logical fallback. The December 2025 venue assessments will be critical, but the conversation has already shifted. What was marketed as a unified North American World Cup is instead being redefined by policy choices. For FIFA, the decision is no longer just about stadium readiness. It is about whether open access can be guaranteed at all. That reality leads directly to the broader question surrounding this tournament. How much does policy, rather than infrastructure, shape who truly hosts the world's game? The irony is clear. The U.S. is building massive stadiums, but its own policies risk keeping global fans outside. Meanwhile, Canada is projecting about 3.8 billion Canadian dollars in economic output and more than 24,000 jobs from its share of matches, all because it can guarantee smoother access. That makes the contrast hard for FIFA and sponsors to ignore. So here's the question. If access problems persist, should FIFA shift more matches to Canada and Mexico given the risks? Tell me what you think in the comments. And if you want to keep up with this story, hit subscribe for more coverage.